Home for principles, not politics. It's the Seth Leibsohn Show. Now, here's Seth.
Well, good Tuesday evening, November 10th, 2015. Happy birthday, U.S. Marine Corps. More about that later. As many of you know, and I hope more of you will learn, The Future of Freedom, November 12th, 7:30 here in Phoenix, featuring Hugh Hewitt, Robert Graham, many in our congressional delegation, and a woman who almost needs no introduction, but I'm sure would love one anyway, or always a friendly one, because she doesn't always get those. She always gets one here, and that is Ann Coulter, author of the bestseller Adios, America. Ann, welcome back to the Phoenix airwaves, or welcome for the first time, whichever it is.
Well, I think it's the first time I've been on your show, unless I'm mistaken, and it's nice to be here.
Well, it's nice to have you here. Ann, there's no reason you would remember, but the first time I met you, everyone remembers the first time they met you. The first time I met you was circa 1998 or 9 at an Independent Women's Forum dinner honoring the congressional delegation that had worked to establish and bring through the impeachment of Bill Clinton.
At the Mayflower. My parents were with me.
Yes, they were. I remember it very well, and I was excited to meet them as I was to meet you. And I've been always a big fan ever since, even before that. But
thank you. What a happy night that was.
It was a happy night. That was about the happiest moment of the whole affair, though, wasn't it?
I know.
Should use my language carefully here. And we're looking forward to having you here in Phoenix on Thursday with Hugh. People want to get tickets. They can go to 960thepatriot.com. It's at a great venue, the Civic Center. And I don't know where to start with you. There is so much I want to talk to you about. I kind of sometimes feel like a like a mosquito at a nudist colony. Where to begin? And let's talk about your book, since it is a bestseller. A lot of people are reading it. I know a lot of people will want to get autographs of you. Adios, America. You always seem to know. How do you always seem to know so well what's on the pulse and what's going to sell so well? How do you figure that out?
I think it's my book that's propelled it to the main issue. I mean, but for Donald Trump, I think all Americans should read this book. But the truth is, I only needed one person to read it, and that was Donald Trump. I did an interview the week before Adios, America came out, which was back in June. I flew down to Miami, and Jorge Ramos interviewed me. It went on the Internet. And I was on my way to the airport down in Miami. The book hadn't even come out yet, and I got an email from Trump's people saying he wanted an advance copy of the book. He's been good on illegal immigration for a while. He didn't need me to raise it as an issue. But as he's said many times, he read it from cover to cover, and nobody was talking about Mexican gang rape, child rape at all until my book came out. That has been his theme. I knew any presidential candidate who picked it up would soar in the polls. He's following the advice I futilely tried to give to other Republican presidential candidates, and he's doing just as I thought he would. This is a huge issue that our elites, except they aren't elite. It's more just the Washington insiders and the lobbyists have simply refused to address, with the American people begging them, please stop dumping third world immigrants on us.
You make a very interesting point. You raise a very interesting point, and you corrected it. That's where I just thought of the point. We talked about these elites, this establishment. It turns out maybe it's not as hard to defeat. Maybe it's not so big. Maybe it's not such a behemoth after all, when basically two people can turn them on their heads, you and Donald Trump.
No, I know. It just took, so there's some things about Trump, and if any of your listeners out there aren't already enthusiastic about Trump, look, I understand. I wouldn't have guessed that he would be my ideal candidate. But then why haven't any other Republicans picked up the immigration issue? It proves that the RNC and the lobbyists are just forcing the Republican Party to take suicidal positions, and it took, an eccentric billionaire to come along and start speaking on behalf of the American people, which he has not only on immigration, which of course I think is the most important issue because it decides every other issue, but also on For example, the carried interest rate, which is the 12% rate that hedge fund managers like George Soros and Warren Buffett pay.
Yep.
Why has neither the Republican nor the Democratic Party put an end to that? It's utterly unfair. It's a loophole in the tax code. The idea that these guys making billions of dollars are paying 12% because of, again, it's a loophole. It's one thing if you and I, we make our money, then we invest it, and the idea is the money we have already paid taxes on, what we get to keep, what we then invest is taxed at a lower rate, any income we make on that. But people who do it for a living, that is their income. They shouldn't be taxed at the same capital gains rate that you and I are taxed for, when we're already being taxed for our real jobs. Anyway, that's kind of boring. But the point is, all these politicians pretend they're against it, but they never do anything about it. Hillary Clinton sat on the Senate Finance Committee for 2 years. She and Chuck Schumer were the ones protecting that unfair low tax rate for hedge fund managers. No, it takes Donald Trump to come along and once again speak on behalf of the American people against the insiders.
But there again is, I think, what you're proving to be hopefully prophetic. You said that carried interest issue is, I think you said, boring. You made it not boring. You made it interesting.
Oh, good, thank you. I was thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to kill me.
No, not at all. I'm trying to make, I think, the same point you might be making, and Donald Trump is making just by waking up in the morning and going to bed at night, which is our movement, and indeed, I would say much of our party, my party, is looking for someone who can just kind of throw a punch and prove that we're going to fight and we can make every issue important, because really every issue is important. Donald Trump has that. There have been candidates here and there that have had it, but lately it just seems like we've been nominating people who don't seem to want to throw a punch and don't seem to know how to throw a punch. That can't be said about you and Donald Trump. And as Ronald Reagan liked to say, just never confuse critics for box office.
No, that's right. Though I really do think it is the issues themselves, and that's what the establishment, the lobbyists, even a lot of our media have been forcing Republicans to take suicidal positions. It is the substance of what Donald Trump is saying. Otherwise, Chris Christie would be at the top of the polls. I mean, part of the reason I liked him is his ability to fight back and, his straight talk. He is a good talker.
Yes.
You may recall I was a big fan of his. Yep. I turned against him when he had his Senate appointee vote for Marco Rubio's amnesty bill. And then he doubled down and he pushed in-state tuition for illegal aliens in New Jersey. So he was dead to me. That was the end of it. No other Republican candidate would touch this immigration issue, not just illegal immigration, but obviously that's the hugest part of it. But also, the people already living here need a pause on all immigration for a while. We need to assimilate the ones already here, turn them into good Americans, dust off the books, put Americans back to work. We have to take care of our own people, and that includes recent immigrants. I mean, I think Donald Trump is right. I think he will get as high a percentage of the Hispanic vote as would ever vote for a Republican, because what do they want? They want the same thing we want. We want higher wages, a booming economy. They want the jobs. This is not an anti-Hispanic thing. It's not an anti-Chinese thing. It is a pro-American thing. America needs a little me time. We've been helping the rest of the world for the last 100 years. We need to take care of ourselves for a while. Things have been going very badly.
We are talking, of course, to Ann Coulter, author of the bestseller Adios America. Great subtitle. I don't know why I didn't read it earlier. The Left's Plan to Turn Our Country into a Third World Hellhole. Ann, you have studied the left. You have written about the left. Every recent book of yours has taken the left on. What is it about them wanting to? What's the mindset? What you studied with Rabkin at Cornell?
Yes,
what is the mindset?
What
is the mindset of the left that wants to actually take the good and turn it bad here? Because we kind of all really deep down know what's right and what's good. And
that is an excellent question. It baffled me for years, and for this I recommend my book, Demonic, about groupthink and mobs. I was a history major at Cornell, where I met Professor Rabkin, whom you also know. Did you go to Cornell?
No, but everyone named Troy did, and I'm best friends with Tevi and Dan and those guys. And,
I loved have each way. Okay.
There's
tell
6
him
of
hello.
us.
He
So.
visited me in Kansas City once. I have pictures of it.
Okay.
And I looked this up to see if colleges taught this. I really think, and I don't want to get too boring, but I think that the beginning of the difference in liberalism and conservatism was the French Revolution versus the American Revolution. And it's amazing that the French Revolution isn't taught more. I mean, it's exciting. It's about beheadings, black masses at Notre Dame, disembowelings. It's not only is it like The Walking Dead, but it's incredibly crucial to the rest of history. I mean, that's what Mao's revolutionaries followed. It explains the revolution in Cuba and the Soviet Union. It explains Nazi Germany. Whereas the complete opposite of that, and they will often be thrown together, that is a lie, is the American Revolution, which it will make you understand so many things about America, and it is conservatives trying to conserve Americanism. It was a calm revolution. It was an intellectual revolution. They couldn't stop writing about it, talking about it. You had, ministers giving sermons on behalf of the revolution. It was, and it was not, peasants and fishmongers running out into the street as a mob, just ginned up to start cutting people's heads off. No, they were thoughtful, elite people who just thought, no, we have a better system, and here's our explanation of it. I mean, the whole Declaration of Independence was to explain to the world what we were doing. And you will see those two tendencies 100, 200 years later in the right and the left. We often make fun of, or at least I make fun of, Republicans for getting a little too complicated and standing, with their pointers and trying to explain why we think cutting taxes is better for the economy. Meanwhile, it's always the left that has the slogans, the Black Lives Matter, and we're going to come and browbeat you and run onto the street and protest at the conventions. To this day, you see the difference in this mob mentality of the left and the careful, thoughtful, intellectual aspect of the right.
And I don't want to lose any of that. What I think you've put your finger on yet again, Ann, and I'm glad you did that little philosophy class for us, because this is where we should. It's really where we ought to live and be proud of it.
Yes.
Because what I think the next book, if I can, and you don't need book
I'm
advice from me.
of it.
Well, the next book is not just Adios America because of illegal immigration, but the aliens we're making of ourselves in our school systems. I'd love to come back to that with you to that, get my prepositions right on the other side of this break. We'll be right back with more from Ann Coulter. This Thursday, The Future of Freedom, November 12th. It starts at 7:30. There are VIP tickets if you want, and you can come to a great VIP event where I'll be, Ann will be, Hugh Hewitt will be, Robert Graham, congressional delegation that starts at 6:30 at the Scottsdale Civic Center. All the information is at 960thepatriot.com, and we look forward to seeing you there. It's going to be a great event. Ann has graciously agreed to stay with us for another segment. Her brand new best-selling book, Adios America. It's as she rightfully says, it's a book that changed the debate and changed the discussion in America. There are few people who have the ability to do that. Ann Coulter is one of them, so it's a privilege not only to have you on our airwaves, Ann, it'll be a privilege to have you on the ground here Thursday. We're looking forward to that.
Me too.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll offer you a little southwestern warmth here. And before the break, you've written a lot and well and beautifully and trenchantly about the issue of illegal immigration. And you look around at what's going on our campuses. University of Missouri is but one other example that comes out every day. We are making aliens of our own citizens, too, aren't we? You gave us this wonderful disquisition on the Declaration of Independence in the last segment, because we're not teaching our own history anymore. We seem to have given that up. It was something Ronald Reagan worried an awful lot about, and it's something a lot of us who look at education reform are worrying about now. It's actually American history is our worst subject. We do worse than math and science, and it's a crime, really. It's a crime of the brain.
Yes, it is, and particularly because it's such a noble history that has done so much for the entire world, and I don't think we're going to lose it, but we're at risk of it. We're at risk of it. I mean, look at what's happening to Europe, and without Trump, it's going to be the end of America as we know it. We've been this beacon for the world. Our Constitution and the Federalist Papers, the most brilliant documents outside of the Holy Bible, and it's provided so much freedom and equality and protection for women and children and plants and animals. Just there's nothing like this in the world. And leftists, again, coming from the satanic French Revolution, it's always been part of their plan, get the schools, indoctrinate the young. And seeing these videos, I was thinking of writing about it for my column tonight, but I just don't think, what's going on is you say at University of Missouri and at Yale, there's nothing more to say once you've seen the videos.
Right.
Just incredibly stupid people who are not, they enter school ignorant. They leave college ignorant, indoctrinated, and $100,000 in debt. That's what we're doing to these kids. I've called for it before. Maybe this will be my second column, calling for hearings with all of the college presidents. I think Republicans have got to get together and say that's it, no more student loans. If colleges are so confident that their educations are going to provide a strong, good education, and, you need it for your future, and you'll make all kinds of money if you get a college degree from our university, okay, then why don't they write their own loans? But instead, taxpayers are subsidizing this Marxist indoctrination all these years, and to a lot of people who don't have the wherewithal, the native abilities to withstand indoctrination in hating their own country and worshiping savagery.
Yeah, and let me just, I think part of the problem is there's a generation just a little older than you and I think that still has a very romantic college of the American university or the college, and they think of it as a place where you can explore ideas, the kinds of stuff, that is very romantic to speak about universities and colleges. That's long gone. What's the last university you were welcomed at, Ann? I'll give you a better example. So there may be no more qualified a person to give a commencement address than Bill Bennett, former Secretary of Education, PhD, law degree from Harvard, chairman of the National Endowment for the Humanities, best-selling author, and I will tell you, deep voice. How many commencement speeches has he been offered to in the last 5 years? The answer is zero.
That actually is an amazing. Of course, I'm not surprised, but that is a beautiful way of putting it. No, you're absolutely right. No, instead they're getting, bimbo Hollywood actresses to give commencement address. This is one thing that's fantastic about my alma mater, Cornell. We don't have commencement speakers, so we don't have to go through that madness every year. The college president gives a brief little chat at every graduation, so at least we are spared the horror of, protests over Condoleezza Rice speaking or something like that. But the colleges have gotten out of control, and it's funny you say that. People of another generation, how they feel nostalgic for a college camp. One of my friends called me last night, and he was an older guy. He was a radical in the 60s, and he's appalled at what's going on. He was at Columbia, where SDS was.
You bet.
He said, "Oh my gosh, if we had done that, we would have been thrown out."
You bet. And it drives me mad when I have friends who are, about where I am politically, or even a click or two to the left, who love giving money to their colleges and universities, money that those colleges and universities don't need, by the way, with those huge endowments. And I think the Republican governors ought to get very serious, very much more serious about who they put on these, boards of regents. And it's power they haven't really exercised yet.
Yes, you not only need the Republican governors to get involved, but I'm telling you, the hearings would be fun if they had them in Congress. It ought to be like the tobacco executives where you line up college presidents. Don't Republicans like to have fun? It would be fun having them explain what they do all day, how many months off they have in the summer, and what they get paid for teaching about Dawson's Creek. That was one of these nutcases. For those of you listeners, you ought to go online and look at the video. But if you haven't seen it, they're having this ridiculous protest out at University of Missouri about how they need safe spaces, and words are being used that are threatening them and threatening their lives, but words. So there's a student reporter there just trying to take pictures, and others record them, and they gang up on him and say, "You have no right to be here. You're bumping into me." They get right in his face, and it's the famous liberal passive-aggressive thing where they charge him and then say, "Oh, you're hurting me." And the kid I'm really impressed with the kid, and he's probably a liberal, probably a Democrat, well, who knows. But anyway, he's very calmly explains to them, No, we have a First Amendment. This is a public space. You're having a protest. I have a right to be here. But if you see these videos, you will despair for the future of your country. Let me just say I give a lot of college speeches, and don't worry, the college Republicans are always really cool and really smart.
Yeah, they are really cool and they are really smart because they're kind of following the advice of pushing as hard against the culture as pushing against them. But they need the intellectual fuel, and you're giving it to them, Ann. And I'm really glad you're coming to Phoenix. We're looking forward to seeing you. You make conservatism both intelligent and fun, and there's not enough about that. By the way, that's something else I think Trump has going for him. He's reminding us that politics can be fun. It should be.
Yes.
It really should be. And you've reminded us of that too, Ann. And we're just delighted you're coming. We're gonna give you a nice warm welcome on Thursday.
Thank you. I can't wait to see you again, Seth.
Thank you, Ann. It'll be a great reunion. The Future of Freedom with Hugh Hewitt and Ann Coulter this Thursday, November 12th at the Scottsdale Civic Center. You can go to 960thepatriot.com, and Ann will be as excited to see you as we all are to see her. We will be right back.